I'm Richard Reisman, the publisher and CEO of the Orange County Business Journal. And as it is every year, it's my pleasure to welcome you all and to congratulate our nominees. The Business Journal is proud to present this, our 17th annual Excellence in Entrepreneurship Award. And please permit me to acknowledge the sponsors that make this event possible. First, our diamond sponsor, Cox Business. Our platinum sponsors, Singer Luwak, RJI CPAs, Pacific Premier Bank, Mobility, Villa, and Mechanics Bank. Our silver sponsors, Angels Baseball and City National Bank. We're so proud to have these outstanding sponsors. Please join me in thanking them for making this event possible. Now I would like to ask our associate publisher, Laura Garrett, and our editor, Pete Weitzner, to please stand and be recognized. Today's event is the work of Laura and the advertising department. The Excellence in Entrepreneurship Special Report, our weekly magazine, and the daily news updates that you receive at 11 a.m. are the work of Pete and our editorial department. The Business Journal will be profiling the winners of our awards today in the March 26th issue. That's a week from Monday. And finally, let me remind all of you to please turn your cell phone ringers back on at the conclusion of the program. We'll resume at 12:40 with a keynote address by Don DiCostanzo, co-founder and CEO of Pedigo Electric Bikes, followed by the presentation of our Excellence in Entrepreneurship Awards. Now please enjoy your lunch. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to commence the program. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the Director of Sales at Cox Business, Mike Drennan. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to Mike.
Thank you, Richard. On behalf of Cox Business, thank you for joining us today to celebrate the honorees of the 2018 Excellence in Entrepreneurship Awards. We are honored to be the diamond sponsor for this prestigious event. Today, we are recognizing excellence in entrepreneurship. We're celebrating the innovators who made decisions to take a risk rather than simply walk away. We're looking at the entrepreneurs who possess an aptitude and a perseverance to continue moving forward at all costs, against all odds, and thought leaders that will come to shape the future of our business for generations to come. While you may know Cox Business for delivering industry-leading video, data, and voice services, you may not be familiar with our Cox's incredible entrepreneurial history. Cox Enterprises was founded in 1898 by James M. Cox. He was a school teacher that borrowed $26,000 from friends and relatives, as many of you have probably had to do, and bought a small newspaper in Dayton, Ohio, called the Dayton Evening News. Through nearly 120 years of hard work, relentless dedication, and an unwavering drive, Cox Enterprise now employs over 55,000 employees across over 300 separate business units and generates over $17 billion in annual revenues. And it's proudly still a family-owned business like many of the businesses that are here today. We are now in our 4th generation of leadership from the Cox family, and we're very proud of that. You most likely have seen us out in the community quite a bit as well. Through the Cox Charities, we have contributed more than $5.5 million back into the community through grants, scholarships, and support for programs that improve the quality of life in our communities where our customers and our employees live. In addition, our employees volunteer with community projects and programs, providing significant support to education, conservation, and innovation in the local community. So whether starting a new company, expanding your existing business, or supporting a national enterprise organization, you can always count that Cox Business can be your technology partner. Now, I hope you're all looking forward to presenting out the well-deserved awards for this year's winners. To get started, I'd first like to recognize this year's nominees. Will all the 2018 nominees please stand up? Thank you. You may be seated. As you've seen, the candidates' photos and companies' names have been scrolling on the screens. We've had a great variety of businesses from all over Orange County, and it was no easy feat in narrowing down and selecting the winners. Congratulations on all your nominations. It's a fantastic group of businesses that we have in the room, and today is a true celebration of all of your successes. Our keynote speaker today is Don DiCostanzo. A lifelong love for bicycles and a dislike of hills and headwinds prompted Don to co-found Pedego Electric Bikes with his best friend, Terry Sherry. In 2008, they drew designs of the first bike on the proverbial napkin, a 50 Styles cruiser that they shipped that very same year. When they started in 2008, no one knew what an electric bike was. Today, Pedego is synonymous with electric bikes and has been named the #1 electric bike brand. Pedego has been featured in leading U.S. media, including Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur, and the Wall Street Journal. Has it ranked in the Inc. 5000 for 4 years. Pedego has 120 stores worldwide, including nearly 100 here in the U.S., plus stores all over the world, in England, Italy, France, and Canada, and Mexico. Pedego offers 14 innovative, colorful models of electric bikes, including the industry's only electric tandem Pedego. Pedego has won the hearts and minds of their raving fans by creating a brand that's all about delighting their customers with unbeatable innovation, quality, and customer service. And they have successfully created a business culture of fun and support for their dealers. It's my pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, a man who lives by his company motto of Hello Fun. One of OCBJ's 2016 Excellence in Entrepreneurship recipient in 2016, Don DiCostanzo.
That's all right. So it's really an honor to be here in front of this group, because 2 years ago I sat exactly where you are. I sat in the chair and I didn't know whether I was going to win or not. So if you are fortunate enough to win, congratulations in advance. And you may find yourself standing up here 2 years from now like I'm fortunate enough to do that. This is probably the hardest presentation I've ever put together, because I recognize it's a jury of my peers. It's people that are entrepreneurs like I am. And I'm just real excited to come and not share my story so much as to have you leave with something that you maybe learn a little bit about what I've learned as I've gone through this. They tell you the first 3 things you're not supposed to talk to in public are these 3 things. So I'm going to make sure to get my point across that I cover each of them. If you get bored and you don't like my presentation, then just put the sunglasses on that we've left in front of you, and you can close your eyes and take a nap and nobody will notice. I'm going to talk about brand ubiquity, because I've learned a lot about it in my years as an entrepreneur. And while I've only been out on my own as an entrepreneur for the last 15 years or so, prior to that I worked in a corporate environment that was very entrepreneurial. So in essence, I've been an entrepreneur from get-go. But you know, if we talk about what exactly ubiquity is, and I'm going to talk about brand ubiquity, Starbucks exemplifies it. You know, I was on a trip from Vancouver to Seattle last week, and I drove down the interstate, and there on the side of the road was a sign. It had McDonald's and Burger King, and it just had this logo on it. And like everybody knows who it is. And that's really the ultimate in brand ubiquity. The other one that you could say is everybody knows who this is, right? Anybody not know what this symbol exemplifies? They've just done a phenomenal job in building that. And there's probably only about 100 companies that have what I would call brand ubiquity. And I've been studying them for a number of years. And I'm actually authoring a book about it. And this is kind of a preliminary part of that book. And I'm going to tell you the why, but you'll have to buy the book to get the how. Early in my career, I went to work for a company called Wins. They were an automotive chemical company. How many people in the room have ever heard of Wins? So we didn't have brand ubiquity, obviously, because only about 10% of you raised your hands. But I learned what it was about when I became the president in 1999. I went to Australia, and I got to the airport, and I was at custom control, or passport control, and they asked me what I did, and I said, well, I work for a company, and I'm here on business. And they said, what company? I said, Wins. And the girl behind the desk got real excited. She goes, wow, you work for Wins? And she starts telling all the people around there, hey, this is the president of Wins here. And I thought, wow, this is pretty powerful. Well, I went there because it was our most successful operating division, and I found out what it was about. They spent time and energy in promoting the brand, and they did it by doing racing. So I got a taste then what ubiquity was. I'd lived 20 years without it, and then I got a taste of what it was all about. So next we're going to talk about religion, and this is a dangerous sport, but I'm going to ask you to think to yourself what the #1 religion is in the world. Just don't blur it out, but if you're right, then you would pick Christianity. And after Christianity, the second most popular religion is Islam, and then after that it's Hinduism. The non-religious make up a big number, but there's 6.9 billion people in the world, and about half of them are part of 2 or 3 religions. And that's significant because they've got ubiquity in religion. When you say religion and people think Christianity, then that's ubiquity. If we go to the next topic of computers, think in your mind when I say the word computer, who's the most successful computer company? Now in this case, there'll be 2 or 3 of them. The ones you thought of might not be around today. You know, back in the 90s when PCs came out, AST, Compaq, Commodore, Fujitsu, Gateway, NEC, Samsung, Sharp, Sony, Toshiba, TI, AT&T, they all had computers. How many are left today? Just a handful. That tells you how important ubiquity is, because without the brand name, they wouldn't got anywhere. And Lenovo, by the way, is what used to be IBM. They were sold to a Chinese company, and they've still maintained their edge. I think of Dell when I think of computers, but everybody has a different sense. But after that, the rest of the computer companies all put together don't make as much as the top 3 do. If you think about car rentals, who's #1? Hertz, right. And who's #2? They've made it their mission to be #2 because they try harder. And that's okay. I think that's a good position to be in, because you know when you're at the top dog, everybody's chewing at you. When you're #2 or #3, they don't pay as much attention. So I actually like being #2 more than I do #1. When you're #1, you have to fight to keep it. When you're #2, you're fighting to get it, and it's more fun to get it. So if you don't have it yet, it's actually more fun trying to get it. If you look at the car market, Avis has not been successful in getting to be #1, but I think they just recently achieved it because they bought Budget. So if you add up Budget and Avis, now you get to 30% market share. We're just waiting to see who Hertz is going to buy. So they're consolidating, but there's only a handful of car rental companies, as you know, that dominate the market. And that's really part of the story. If we go to electric cars, who do you think of when you say electric cars? Most people would say, that's the right answer, Tesla. Tesla actually has about 1/3 of the marketplace. And General Motors and Nissan have the other lion's share, and the other ones are all clamoring for it. Just because you're a big car manufacturer like Toyota doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be ubiquitous in a separate category. So there's a lot of places where that's different. So if I say motorcycles, what do you say motorcycles? You know, it's amazing, but Harley-Davidson has 52% market share of the overall motorcycle market, and they have 62% of the female market share, which to me is even more incredible because they pay attention to it. And of course, they've got a bunch of no-name competitors like Honda and Kawasaki. Who's ever heard of those companies? The truth of the matter is, just because you've got a well-known brand doesn't mean you necessarily have brand ubiquity. If we go to the next category, rideshare. Of course, right? I mean, an Uber, probably faster than anybody else. That's what their decal shows on the car now when you go to the airport. They don't even have to put Uber underneath it. That is totally brand ubiquity. And so even if you're going to take a Lyft, you're probably not going to tell your friends, I'm going to take a Lyft. You're probably going to say, I'm going to take an Uber, even if you press the button for Lyft. That is true brand ubiquity. And they have 74% market share. And then Lyft is not so bad at a $4 or $5 billion valuation. They're still not bad being in second place. So second place is okay. Some cases may be better. They've got room to go. Now, if we go to my favorite one, which is coffee shops. Whoops, I skipped a slide here. Coffee shops. Okay, what do we think of when we think of coffee shops? Hint I told you earlier. Starbucks. Okay, and Starbucks started in 1971. Dunkin' Donuts was founded in 1950, and Tim Hortons was founded in 1964. And Coffee Bean was founded in 1962. So just because you're first doesn't mean you're the top. And look how many outlets they have. They have 27,000 Starbucks locations all over the world. It's just incredible, isn't it? All right, now we're going to talk politics. The reality is, brand is important in politics too. Who were the most famous brands in politics at the last election cycle? It's very easy to say. You know, Donald Trump started building his brand in 1971 when he took over his company from his father. That's what he did. He built his brand. He didn't put his name on hotels. He built his brand. Clinton started building their brand when they became governor when Clinton became governor, and then subsequently president. So they have a brand. And of course, George Bush, the Bush family has the brand. Those are the three brands. Those were the most famous people in politics. So as we know from the last election, brand matters. It's not just about the person, but it's about the brand itself, the person. Now we're going to talk about home movies. And just because you're ubiquitous, who used to own the home movie market? They did, right? Where are they today? They're gone. They're bankrupt. They were ubiquitous. We would say, hey, I'm going to go to Blockbuster and get a film and watch it on Saturday night. Now what do you say? I'm going to do a Netflix. And you want to know something? When this transformation was happening, Netflix was offered to sell themselves to Blockbuster for $50 million. And Blockbuster had attitude. So you can't have attitude when you're number one. And they said, that digital stuff, that'll never work. We want our people to come to our stores because we want them to buy popcorn. So just because you're ubiquitous doesn't mean you get to keep it. If we talk about the online viewing, Netflix has 75% of the homes that do movies online. They had 75% market share. Search engines. Of course, right? Is there anybody else? There are a couple other ones. There is, of course, Google. And then we have Bing and Yahoo, which are almost irrelevant if you look at the chart. Does anybody go home and say, I'm going to go Bing to see what my favorite movie is going to be tonight? I don't think so. By the way, Bing is owned by Microsoft. I mean, this is a powerful company with a lot of money that went after it. Yahoo owned it for a long time, and those are from the early days of computers. You remember that AOL kind of dominated the market for a while, and even before that, there were other companies that were trying to go for this space. I had a Prodigy account. Anybody here have a Prodigy account? My Prodigy ID number was PK60A. That was my email ID and my identity online. It tells you how far we've come. But they didn't win. They've since gone away as other companies have. Now we're going to talk about e-commerce. If you're going to go online and shop, where are you going to go? Of course you're going to go to Amazon. Who else is there? Is there anybody else? Well, there are some other companies. And believe it or not, Apple's number 2 for e-commerce, which kind of surprised me. Now, they were just based on retailers. If you looked at searches, I think Walmart would probably come up a little higher than them. But Apple does sell a lot online. Athletic wear. Who do you think of when you think athletic wear? They own it, don't they? They dominate the category, and the guy, Phil Knight, I recommend his book. It's called Shoe Dog. Fascinating book. He didn't even like the name Nike when they came up with it, but they made it what it was. He made that brand what it was because he was determined to make Nike be universally known everywhere, and obviously they had a great degree of success. In fact, so much to say, even companies like Adidas and Puma don't even hold a candle to them when you look at the total of the statistics. Phone stores. You know, people say Verizon, people say AT&T, but I would tell you that it's Apple. And the reason I say Apple is Apple offers an experience. If you're going to buy any kind of Apple product, you go to the store, even if you're going to buy a phone, because they're going to switch it over for you. They've created a phenomenal retail experience, and you never see an Apple store close. You see them move to bigger places, but you don't see them close. And they do over $1,000 per square foot per year, which is unheard of in the retail business. They figured out to dominate. And, you know, they sell computers. Who do they compete against with computers? They competed with a lot of people for computers over the years, but Microsoft, Samsung, Sony all tried to open up computer stores to compete with Apple. Where are they now?